All right, I am gonna do some mobility work for you guys today. I'm gonna take you through how to use a foam roller correctly on the quadricep muscles. So the big thing with the foam roller is making sure that we're using the right amount of pressure, making sure that we're going the right direction when we're doing foam rolling, and knowing what the intention behind this foam roller is supposed to be. So what we're gonna do when we're working on the thigh, so on the quad, there are 4 muscles, hence quadricep. So there's a curved surface. So we're not gonna just focus on coming straight up and down the leg, but we're gonna manipulate our body a little bit to kind of hit some of the contour of the leg. And when we're talking about the quad, we're not talking about directly on the outside and we're not talking about directly on the inside, but we're just talking about mostly on the front, but still accommodating for some of the natural contour that that leg gives. So what I would recommend is you can do this 2 legs at a time where you hit both sides simultaneously. The biggest trade-off there is it makes it a little bit tougher to actually rotate and hit some of that contour. So we're gonna do it just 1 leg at a time. So you'll see how I'm gonna set this up. I'm gonna just get 1 leg positioned on the foam roller so it's just above my kneecap. The other leg is gonna be over here off to the side just so that it's not gonna get in the way. Now I'm gonna go down onto all 4s. This leg that's not being foam rolled, I'm kneeling on it, or I'm just kind of shifting it, but I'm not propping myself up with it because I need my body weight to be able to sink into this foam roller. So I've got it right now, currently just above my kneecap. All I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start rolling from my kneecap toward my hip until I find a position where there's some noticeable discomfort. So when I hit that spot, I'm not trying to like kill myself. I'm not trying to dig for gold in my quad, but I want to have enough pressure on it that I can definitely feel it, but something that's like the intensity level where I can breathe through it. So I'm going to hold that spot, take a couple of breaths in it, usually like 10, 15 seconds or so, and then I'm just going to move up. I'm just going to keep moving toward my hip. And every time I find a spot that's significant, I'm just going to stay there, take a few breaths, and then move on. Now, one thing you can add when you're working on the quad is you can use what's called a pin and stretch. And what the pin and stretch technique is going to look like is if I start down here on my quad again, when I find those tight spots, instead of simply just breathing, I can also add a little bit of active range of motion where I can just try to move myself. It doesn't have to be a huge motion, but I'm just trying to create some length now in the muscle while it's pinned down. So you don't have to do this, but you can definitely add it. But all I'm trying to do is just move my way up toward the hip. So I'm gonna take that straight path toward my hip. And for most people, once you cross the halfway point on the thigh, I think the pressure definitely drops. It won't go away, but I do think for most part, it definitely will drop some. I'm gonna take it all the way up to the hip. I'm just kind of fast forwarding through this, but you would definitely wanna spend longer than you can see me spending right now. And then I would reposition back down at the knee, but I would just orient myself just really slightly rotated. So it's still on the front of the thigh, but again, kind of matching some of that contour. Again, find a spot, hold it, or you can layer in the pin and stretch and keep going. So if you basically, on each leg, if you do 1 trip right up the middle, 1 trip slightly off to the outside, 1 trip slightly off to the inside, I'd probably budget maybe a good 90 seconds or 2 minutes per thigh. So you're gonna end up spending 3 or 4 minutes working on this. But this would be a good thing to do prior to training so that if you're someone who feels like you're really stiff when you try to get into a lunge or a squat position, especially if you feel like you're getting pulls at your knees or at your hips when you're trying to get into like a deep squat or lunge, I would add this prior to training so that it decreases some of the tone in that muscle, so it'll help you access better range of motion. So give this a shot. If you have questions on other foam rolling stuff, make sure you throw them in the comments below. Don't forget to like our channel, and we'll see you next time.